Hey everyone, it's Naveed. In today's video, we're going to talk about AMC's proxy voting, the 5 things we're voting over, what it means for you as an ape, and what it means for AMC and its long-term goal of success as well. Currently, let's go and look at how AMC is doing right now. We're about halfway into Power Hour. AMC is sitting around that $61 area for a little bit, but overall, AMC is bullish and it is booming for Pluto. So with that, it's good news as we wrap up this Thursday. So let's go and get started on the proxy votings and the things that we have the opportunity to vote on. I'll just kind of work my way through from 1 through 5. So first and foremost, as excited and pumped and amped you are about getting your attendees and to vote, it's important to wait and understand what you're really voting for. And that's something I'm still sort of figuring out. But there are key things that I think majority of us probably have a good idea on at this point, and we'll discuss in this video. So first and foremost, you have until July 28th to vote on this because the board meets on the 29th. So take your time, do your due diligence, and make your vote count. Point 1, to approve an amendment to our third amended and restated, you know how to read. I'm not gonna read for you, but essentially what this is saying is that can AMC add 25 million worth of shares at January 1st, 2022? What this really breaks down to is 2 mindsets as an ape. One is that, do you believe that the squeeze will happen before January 1st, or more specifically, before the board meeting date, that being July 29th, or do you think it will happen in 2022? What we do know is that a squeeze generally on average happens to last for about 10 to 12 days. If the squeeze happens in 2022, then it may not be in your best interest to vote for this, because if you're voting for this and you believe the squeeze will happen later on, you're increasing the amount of stocks that are available. So you're increasing the supply, which would cause a devaluation of the current market price of the stock. So if you're wanting a squeeze to occur, you want a limited amount of stocks. However, this would, in the long term, potentially hurt AMC because they may not have the liquidity or the capital at that point to sell off where they need for runway, and that's only a potential. However, if you do believe that the AMC squeeze, let's say, happens before the board meeting date, that being July 29th, or before the next year, then you can essentially help out AMC here by saying, hey, like, we can make our attendees because the squeeze has already happened and now AMC has probably stabilized around a near price point that's gonna be higher than what it was. We kind of see this with GME or with GameStop, where it's kind of leveled off around 200. Not that GameStop is over just yet, but that being said, AMC will level off, which the additional shares that they would be able to bring in, that being AMC, in the new year, they can then slowly liquidate that or sell it off, in which case they can start raising capital to maintain business. So those are the kind of the 2 ways to look at it. In short, you have one way: if you believe the squeeze will happen before the board meeting, it's probably in your favor and in AMC's favor to vote for, to allow AMC future capital in the future. If you believe that AMC squeeze will happen later down the road, then it's probably to your best interest to vote against, because then you can maintain that the squeeze does happen and there's not an extra amount of shares in the market for hedge funds to essentially short or buy back to cover their shorts. So that's kind of why it's important to maybe wait it out until you get close to the voting deadline to really vote for this, because if it happens and you still get to vote, then you already know your answer. So 2A, 2B, and 2C, it's talking about the re-election of the directors, that being Mr. Philip later, Mr. Gary F. Locke, or Mr. Adam J. Sussman. This one's kind of straightforward. Do you want to allow the continuation of the individuals who are already pretty much in power, who are already in the board? I personally think it makes sense to let them be, because what we have seen so far, on the perspective of that you are an ape, the executive board and the CEO seem to be in favor of its shareholders, seeing that the apes are 80% of its base or of its ownership. So it kind of makes sense to maintain the team that's been, helping us survive this long and is on our side, either or, whichever. So number 3 is really just talking about bringing in independent contractors who essentially go to the public accounting side for AMC. So if that's something you support, go for it. If it's not, then don't. But I don't think it will have a major impact on the actual squeeze that AMC will tackle on. Number 4, to conduct a non-binding advisory to vote to approve compensation of named executive officers. Not entirely sure what that means. I would assume that means something regarding like compensation, such as like salary for the executives. Hey, you know, everybody needs to make money. So if you're for giving people a raise or compensation, then, you know, more power to them.
You gave me a raise, thank you. I can't believe this.
Number 5, to approve the adjournment. You know what this means? Essentially what this is saying is that we can essentially push the date for when they need to meet. Let's say the squeeze is happening in the midst of all of this. They have the decision to essentially postpone the meeting, and we can decide later on what to do. And really this makes sense because when the squeeze is happening, things are gonna get rather messy, and it would probably allow them to make a decision that is in the best interest both for their shareholders as well as AMC without the stress of a time limit that is binding on them. And so I think in this situation, giving them the flexibility makes sense. Is probably why the board is recommending a 4 vote on this. This is why they can probably do a better job on assessing, again, what they want and what the shareholders want. So with that said, that was kind of a rough overview over the specific 5 points that we're getting to vote for AMC in this proxy vote. Oh my gosh, no glare. This is the angle. This is where I will stay. With that said, I will be voting pretty much the second to the last day just to see how things unravel, if the squeeze happens before then or not, and any additional information that may come out. And I think that can help us be more educated on the vote that we make and on the future for ourselves and our pockets, as well as AMC's and its long-term success. So with that, that's a bit. Peace.